This is IBN, the Islamic Broadcasting Network. The following program is sponsored by the Islamic Media Foundation, sharing the guidance of Allah through the broadcast media and the Internet.
Welcome to Family Matters with your host, Mollie Shamma. Because each family matters.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Family Matters. This is Mollie Shamma, and this afternoon I have Zaynab Shwinn with me to talk a little bit about the Palestinian image in the media and also about a play that was recently written by a person named Glenn O'Malley. And the play is called Paradise, and this play is getting a lot of public notice because it was originally targeted for high school students. And Zaynab has been involved in some of the activist actions regarding this play in the Cincinnati area, and I thought it would be really nice to have Zaynab come on and talk a little bit. So, Assalamu alaikum, Zaynab. Welcome to Family Matters.
Wa alaikum assalam, rahmatullah, Mollie.
So, tell us a little bit about your background. I'm not real sure when you came to the U.S. or if you were born here.
No, I'm a Palestinian in origin, and I used to live in Egypt most of my life, and
Okay.
I came to graduate school in the 80s.
Okay.
So,
Should I call you an activist, do you think?
I suppose.
Yeah.
I suppose. I'm a pharmacologist by profession, but I am an activist in any other way, I suppose.
Well, we know that you're certainly very active in the Cincinnati community here at the Masjid in Westchester and outside Greater Cincinnati. And
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, you always have a lot of good things to say, and you're always out there, fighting for the Muslim cause in the media. And I think this is very important because right now Palestinians are in the public eye. It seems to me more now than ever. I don't remember when I was even in college in the 80s. I don't remember seeing anything really about Palestine too much. And now it seems like every time I turn on the news, the first thing I hear is Palestine. And
yeah. I'm not sure that is due to an interest in the Palestinians as much as it is the continual interest in the Jewish state in Israel and its well-being. And so as much as education has occurred during the years, I've been here 25-plus years, in the United States, and I still haven't seen a point where people really fully in America understand the Palestinian viewpoint properly. And they still are being portrayed as the violent terrorists who want to throw the Israelis into the sea. So
yeah, the only image you ever see of Palestinians are these very angry men who are always shouting and waving their fists, and you never see a calm, collected, educated Palestinian portrayed, and it's very disturbing to me.
It is very disturbing, and I tell you, there are so many highly educated Palestinians in the world who have been contributing right and left to the societies in which they live in, especially in the United States. There have been many critics and thought leaders and philosophers and writers here in the United States, and some of them, the very highly educated, read their writing, but the majority and the majority of the American people don't. Now, one of the things that really bothers me the most in our view in the media is that the inhumane way that the Palestinians are always portrayed. When there is a suicide bombing against the Israelis, and there are many Palestinians who spoke against the suicide bombings, this never gets publicized enough, but also they will show you in detail how traumatized the Israeli families are. They give you the personal history and story about the teenagers who died, and they look at it as a big trauma. Yet the trauma and the drama that's happening in the occupied territories right now and forever never gets publicized on a human basis. You know, there are numbers. It's always a number of Palestinians, and it's always followed by the word militants or gunmen or so on and so forth, so that it justifies their killing. Yet there have been tragedies happening daily for children, Palestinian children, and that doesn't get fully publicized.
Or if it does, it gets as a by the way.
Right.
You know, oh, by the way, these several people were killed here, but these Israelis, and they go on for 5 minutes.
Right.
You know, and it's always, it seems so, I mean, it's so horribly biased, it's almost laughable at times. And yet it's not funny, and it's not fair, and it's not...
It is very intentional.
And I'm not Palestinian, and I'm sitting back watching it as an American going, what? You know, how can people be so blind? But, you know, like I was saying, when I was growing up, I was not Muslim as a teenager or as a young adult even. And, you know, I never knew anything about... All I knew was that in my church, my minister would say things like, you know, if we ever come to a world war, we need to be on the side of Israel. And they would preach that. We need to be on the side of Israel because in the last days, you know, it's very clear that, you know, we need to be on the side of Israel. And I thought, and now looking back at that, I'm thinking, wow, was I brainwashed? Even from, you know, from a very young age that, you know, the Israelis are obviously right and anyone who opposes them must be wrong in some way. And, you know, I went to a production of the Veggie Tales. I don't know if you know who the Veggie Tales are. It's this kids program that the Christians put on, and a lot of times it's very funny and it's very cute, and the messages are very, you know, kind of flat across the moral board. They're not heavy-handed Christian or whatever. And I have a Christian friend, and she said, "Why don't you come and bring your kids? This will be really fun." So we went, you know, and everything. But yet there was one scene in this play that they put on where they were acting out, I don't know, one of the Bible stories, and there was this whole thing where they were chanting, "We must save Israel, we must save Israel," and I'm thinking, oh, no, here it goes again, another generation being brainwashed. At that point, I almost got up and left, you know. I was like, oh, no, don't listen to this. This is wrong. Wait, you know. But it's so, sometimes it's subtle, and sometimes it's very heavy-handed. And now you have not lived in Palestine for many years, but you have family there.
Yes.
Are you in contact with them quite a bit?
Yes. Well, I have a big part of my family there. I come from the Shah's family, and they are mostly concentrated in the Gaza Strip.
Okay.
And it's a large family, so I don't know all of them. I have closer family members there, but I also have my brother there who lives in Gaza. And I have many, many friends in the West Bank. Who were friends of mine during college years, who have come to Egypt for some of their college education. So I am in connection with the email with some of them at times, and then at times, you know, we get cut off from the connection when we need it. So it gets very traumatic, and they are living a very, very, very hard life. I don't think Palestinians have suffered as much as they are suffering these days under the Israeli occupation. You know, I don't think even from, other than for the, 1948, the Palestinians were not physically attacked the way they are being physically attacked right now.
It's like there's a stepping up or a ramping up of attacks, and and it just perpetuates itself because the more the Israelis push, the more the Palestinians push back. And
well, yes, I mean,
of course you're going to. I mean, if
Palestinians
people are
have the
bombing
right.
the city, I mean.
Palestinians have the right to defend themselves,
Absolutely.
and as much as we hear in the media here that the Israelis have the right to defend themselves, the Israelis are the biggest might now. They are one of the most, highly weaponized countries, and they have the biggest armies and everything. And yet they tend to be portrayed as the poor ones that are being attacked by these terrorists, and that they have to do what they have to do to defend their people. And that is a very warped view of what is happening on a daily basis, where the siege of the Palestinians have caused such suffering for the Palestinians and their economy and their breadwinning and their children's medication and medical attention to the sick and the elderly. And on the top of that, they are bombarded by the best fighter planes, and unfortunately that come from the United States. Their houses are bombed and demolished by bulldozers, and it is just an incredible, horrendous way to live, and yet we let it go day by day by day by day, very matter-of-factly.
Let's take a quick break for a station break, and inshallah we'll be right back.
This is Yusuf Estes speaking to you on behalf of the Islamic Broadcasting Network, a subsidiary of the Islamic Media Foundation. We would like at the Islam Today Project to endorse and encourage all of us to contribute to this wonderful project. After all, we in America need to have our voice, and IBN is the voice of American Muslims. Your contribution of a single $1 per day will help keep IBN on the air. As long as Islamic Broadcasting Network is on the air, you'll be able to hear the voice of Yusuf Estes on Islam Today. So we have a vested interest, more than one way, to keep IBN on the air and the voice of American Muslims. Seriously, I want to let you know that I personally have made my commitment to the $1 a day to help keep Islamic Broadcasting Network broadcasting. And I'd hope that you'll do the same thing. It's a simple $1. A cup of coffee, a Pepsi, and it's only $1. Make the commitment now. Go to the internet, type in ibn.net, and see how you can make your contribution through the internet, or call. Pick up the telephone and call 703-241-9659. Let me repeat the number again. If you're driving, don't have a wreck. You can go to the internet and get it there. 703-241-9659. It's $1 a day. It keeps IBN out there on the air for American Muslims. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Family Matters. This is Mollie Shamma again. I'm on today with Zaynab Shwinn of Cincinnati, Ohio, and we are talking about Palestinians and the image of the Palestinian in the media. And I want to segue now and talk a little bit about a play that has been written by a person named Glenn O'Malley. I'm not even sure Glenn O'Malley is a man or a woman. That's pretty sad.
Glenn O'Malley is a man.
Okay, I assume so, but I didn't want to say that for sure till I asked you, because I wasn't really sure. But Glenn O'Malley has written a play called Paradise, and this play was commissioned by, help me out, Zaynab.
It has really been commissioned by the Playhouse.
Okay, the Playhouse in Cincinnati.
Right. It was being produced by the artistic director Edward Stern.
Okay.
And it was really part of a youth outreach educational touring program that the Playhouse have been been active in it in about maybe 3-4 years. And so this play was commissioned by the Playhouse, and they gave Glenn O'Malley the idea of the play, which was based, by the way, by a true story that occurred a few years back about a Palestinian and an Israeli teenagers, 17-year-old, where the Palestinian girl, her name was Ayal Akhras, who came from a refugee camp, actually blew herself up in and killed one of the settlers' kids, I guess. And they were both teenagers, and they both died. They were the only two who died. So the play was based on that. And it was to tour the schools, and it isn't only for high school. It was from the 8th grade on to the 12th grade, and it was to tour and show to thousands of youth. And we were very disturbed by the whole premise of the play when we found out about it, because it was based on the suicide bombing, and we felt that was a very skewed view of the Palestinian issue. It is suicide bombings is not an appropriate topic for kids in that age group. It is, the topic of war and peace can be discussed in other other stories. It doesn't have to be that story. And also there were many biases in the play itself that was written by Glenn O'Malley, who, by the way, is an award-winning playwright by his own right.
I have the play in front of me, actually, and I spent some time reading through it. Mm-hmm. And I have to say I agree with you. I think that in one sense, I get the sense that he was trying as best one can from their own perspective to show both sides of the argument. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he was successful. And I think that if the children were to see this play, they would come away with the wrong idea. Right. Basically what happens in the play is that you have the characters of Sarah and Fatima, and one is an American who has come to live on a settlement, mm-hmm. and she's Jewish, but she's culturally Jewish, but not really practicing Jewish. Mm-hmm. And then you have Fatima, who lives in I guess, one of the camps, one of the refugee camps.
Well, an important part, Molly, not to forget that the Jewish girl came to live in a newly formed settlement.
Right.
And we have to understand that settlements, whether, the Americans want to agree with that or not, they are illegal settlements. And they, forever, the United States government was against it. International law is against it. They were called to be dismantled. And it is dealt with in the play as matter-of-factly as if, settlers have the right to stay where they are. So in in itself, the way, the setting gives legitimacy to the settlement.
Yeah, it does.
And also it shows the background of the Palestinian girl and where she came from. Why is she in a refugee camp to start with in her own? That's not being dealt with. The historical background was not well developed. And therefore, if you were going to put something so extreme, really, without a historical background, is very damaging for our children here in the United States.
Sure, and it's very controversial. I mean, it's not like these issues are cut and dry. I mean, a lot of these things that he brings up and throws out as matter of fact are very, very controversial. And I often wonder if this play had just been written and put out there to be performed without having been targeted for a high school audience. I mean, I don't know if the reaction would be. I'm sure we would react. Would we react as strongly?
That's correct. I thank you for bringing that point up. Is that I don't think any of us were trying to control freedom of speech or
that issue does come up.
That is if it was being developed as an adult play in the Playhouse in the Park, it would have been a different matter altogether. We would not have fought the play so hard. The reason we fought it was specifically because it was targeting children, and it was also going to the schools rather than, so it is forcing them to be audience. You know, they are there, they're sitting ducks, and they will listen to this play. Mm-hmm. Now, we have to understand that also, as you know, that it's a very small fraction of Palestinians who believe in suicide bombing, and it is becoming the center of the Palestinian issue. And as I said, the settlement. So it was the wrong story. I think they intended well. It was well-meaning from the Playhouse in the Park, but as you said, they went about it in the wrong storyline.
Yeah, I see a lot of, I mean, I come from a college English background, so I can kind of pick at this thing, you know, and it's, like I said, I can kind of see, and he does portray the Palestinian girl as a practicing Muslim. She prays. She's very interested in her family and all of this, and I think he builds a good case for why she might get to that point, although I would hate to think any Muslim would ever get to this point, you know. But at the same time, just to, like you said, make the kids into sitting ducks. You know, we're gonna shove this down your throat whether you want to see it or not. You know, here are these issues, and in the end, you do come away. I mean, I came away from it feeling sorry for the Israeli settlers.
Of course.
I didn't come away from it feeling any kind of equity at all. You know, I came away from it saying, isn't it horrible that this man talked this poor girl into killing herself and killing all these poor people? And you know, and then I said, wait a minute, what am I thinking? This is not reality. It may, you know, yes, these two girls killed themselves. That is a fact. Or this girl killed herself and this other girl. That is a fact of history. We can't change that. But
that's a tragedy of a deeper issue. And I think that play, one of the things that really upset the Muslim community here and upset me was the fact that the evil man portrayed as the evil Palestinian man who made her do that was portrayed as religious. You know, he goes in and out of the mosque before and after he you know, doing these violent acts, and so there was a lot of mishmash of religion intertwined with the image, the violent image, and the violent act of suicide bombing, as if saying, for somebody who doesn't understand Islam, will think that, you know, this is something we attain to go to paradise. This is our mode of going to paradise, and it is part of our religion that we believe in.
And that's indeed exactly what the play says. You know,
exactly.
The guy says, I'm going to give you a key to paradise. All you do is push this button, and the next second you're in paradise with all of the friends that you just lost, and this is part of our religion. And I'm sitting here going, wait a minute, this is not part of our religion.
Exactly. People, when
Islam
I tell
doesn't teach us this sort of stuff.
That you know, suicide is sacrilegious in Islam, and a Muslim cannot take one's life, they look at me like I am fabricating something, and instead of the reverse, that the suicide bombing being part of Islam is fabrication. No, now it's the opposite. That's a fabrication. They look at me like, what are you saying? That's not what we hear.
That's not what we see on TV, because that's all that's ever shown.
Yeah.
And it's really horrible. So what is the current status of the play? Did it get killed, or is it still out there somewhere?
Unfortunately, I had the publicity that, because we vehemently opposed it, made it even a little bit more popular. What happened is that Glenn O'Malley decided that he is going to publicize this play and himself through this, and he went to the Drama Guild and Writers Guild and so on and so forth, screaming, the Muslims are trying to stop me from saying stop my play, and because of that, they reversed the decision in the Playhouse. They are going to develop it, and they returned back to developing it. Also, in New York, it was actually in April presented in the Epic Repertory Theater Company. They went ahead. Now, Glenn O'Malley is from New York, and so they took the play and they developed it, and they've already showed it to a smaller group in April. So he's doing what's good for Glenn O'Malley, and unfortunately, because we opposed it, we gave it the publicity that we did not want, but we had to oppose it, and we have to stand up against this and voice our opinion.
Absolutely. I don't think that anybody could have sat still and let this thing happen without saying something. So
yes, absolutely. And I think they've learned some things through the process, and there have been some revisions done to the Paradise itself, and some of the very objectionable things that we had about it were removed. So we saw some sensitivity in doing that. But I think that the big view of the fact that on the bottom line it is about suicide killing, and that is inappropriate for schools remains the same as far as we are concerned.
I think so too. Now, if it is successful, will it still go to the schools, or is it going to be more now produced in the?
No, it cannot be produced as a play here in the Playhouse because it is made as a 40-minute mini play.
Oh, I see. It's
intended
one act or whatever they call it.
Touring. So they cannot produce it as is as a full-blown play. But I bet you Glenn O'Malley will develop it as a full play. That's my guess. I don't have proof of that.
Well, when he does, we'll have to stand up and say something again.
Exactly.
Well, Zaynab, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate the interview.
Well, thank you very much
and inshallah,
interviewing me.
You're very welcome. Anytime.
Okay.
And maybe we'll have to follow up on this in a few months once we see what Mr. O'Malley's up to next.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair, and thank you very much.
And this has been Mollie Shamma with Family Matters. Inshallah, we'll be back again next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
This program has been sponsored by the Islamic Media Foundation, sharing the guidance of Allah through the broadcast media and the Internet.